Hey everybody, how are you doing? I hope you had a good holiday. It is now the evening of Christmas, and I had a great time with my family and my 1-year-old daughter. I'm coming back today with a new build for you. So this is a high-tier electrocution build. I'm actually going to try to make this video shorter. The last one was definitely way too long. So I used this build while I was leveling all the way to end game. You can typically rely on one-tap electrocution in your AoE. Every time you electrocute somebody, they're shocked in the process and they receive a debuff, which increases the amount of damage they take by 20%. So this is reliable enough to where you can end up putting on all your rarity plus gear and maximizing your rarity find. So it's perfect for farming. What we're going to look at first is the gear. There's one piece of gear that's very important for this build. Right here, Kitiko's current jeweled gloves. This makes it so that all your lightning damage from all your hits contribute to building up electrocution. This is very important. Not all skills are going to be able to electrocute right off the bat. This is something that you need to set up for. So this is going to work in conjunction with Neural Overload on the Galvanic Shard skill. Looking at the skills here, you can see DPS looks a little weak. This is definitely stronger than it looks. So you've got the passive skills working in conjunction with this, plus the 5-second stun from electrocution, and then all the damage bonuses you receive. This is going to be powerful enough to where you can easily handle tier 15 or 16. So, first support gem for the Galvanic Shards is Lightning Penetration. This penetrates 30% lightning resistance. Second one is Martial Tempo. This makes it so that this skill has 25% more attack speed. Good thing to note about this is that it actually increases the reload speed too. So you're going to have a very quick reload speed with this skill. Third one we have is Innervate. Attacks gain 35% of damage of lightning damage for 3 seconds whenever you kill a shocked enemy. Every once in a while, there will be enemies that get shocked, but don't get electrocuted on that first shot. That second shot will more than likely kill them, and you will get another damage bonus for your next few shots. Fourth skill, Lightning Exposure. Whenever you hit somebody and you shock them, the skill will inflict lightning exposure. And what this does is it lowers the resistance of the lightning element. And let's see, yeah, minus 20% to the specified resistance, lasts for 4 seconds. It's more than long enough for most of these enemies. This is going to help you do more damage overall in the end. Final one here, Neural Overload. It doesn't really tell you much here. Supported skills electrocute primed enemies on hit. What this actually does is typically when you are trying to electrocute an enemy, you need to build that shock value from 0% up to 100%. Once it hits 100%, you're going to be able to electrocute them. Now, oftentimes this will take 5, 6, 7 hits without this. With Neural Overload and the passive skill tree we have, we're going to be able to 1-tap, sometimes 2-tap most enemies and stun them all very quickly, very easily. Looking at the next skill is High Velocity Rounds. I don't use this often, but I will use it if I come across a rare enemy that I need to just knock out really quick with higher single target damage. DPS is currently at 9k. This will vary depending on your gear. Right now, again, I'm wearing my rarity gear. I'm not even wearing my good gear. So a lot of my stats, defenses, and even to a large extent, my damage is actually substantially lower than it could be. So the first support gem here is Scattershot. This makes it so that it deals damage out of 3 shots in one. It deals 20% less damage, but that's fine because we're tripling the amount of shots we get. Ammo Conservation gives us a chance to not consume a bolt when we do shoot. Double Barrel is the third one, lowers our reload speed, but gives us an additional bolt. So by default, we're going to have 2 bolts with a 1 in 4 chance of not even using a bolt when we do shoot. So you'll be able to spam this a little more often. Long Shot. Since the whole idea with this is to be at a distance and nuke them down, This I find useful because you're going to deal up to 35% more attack damage to these enemies that you hit with this. All right, Maim. This one actually slows the enemies by, I want to say 30%. Yes, 30% slower movement speed and reduces their evasion by 15%. This is also very useful for this skill. Helps make sure that you have an easier time dealing with them, especially considering this build is ideal for farming builds especially. Plasma Blast is our next skill. We have Primal Armament. This makes it so that they just simply deal 25% more weapon elemental damage. Heft, this increases the maximum physical damage by 30%. Lightning Infusion, we get an extra 25% of damage as extra lightning damage. We don't really care about the 50% less cold and fire damage because we don't use that here. Coursing Current, this makes it so that we also have a 50-50 chance to also shock enemies in a 2.5 meter radius around the rest of the enemies. Typically, if you use this to do a quick nuke on, like, let's say a rare that hasn't seen you yet, it will be useful to shock everything around you immediately to help guarantee that one-tap shock with galvanic shards. And lastly, we have Mobility. 30% less movement speed penalty while using this skill. One of the things that I do not like about this skill is the simple fact that it is so slow to charge. A little over 2 seconds. So it helps a lot to be able to hold it down, and you'll move around a lot quicker while you're loading this bad boy up. So we're going to move on down. We have the Herald of Thunder passive Herald skill. First one I've got in here is Blind. I use this as support. Guarantee a chance to blind enemies on hit. That'll help make sure that I have a higher chance of evading everything. Magnified Effect gives a 40% more AoE effect when the lightning does come down. These are some pretty large blasts, and they are going to be coming hard and fast. Giggity. So, Lightning Mastery is the next one. +1 level to the supported lightning skill. Pretty simple. Elemental Focus, 25% more elemental damage. This skill cannot any longer inflict elemental ailments. We're going to have plenty of that from Galvanic Shards. Armor Explosion, supported skills trigger an explosion when they fully break an enemy's armor. So I don't typically see this happen because everything dies quickly enough. You can go ahead and swap this out for whatever else if you think something else looks good. This is basically a free slot right here. I've just got the slot open, figured I'd go ahead and use it. So the next one is Overwhelming Presence. What I have right here is regenerate 1% of life per second while it's active. It's always active. Cannibalism, 4% of life recovered on kill while it's active. Again, always active. Clarity, 30% increased mana regen rate while a supported skill is active. So right here, this is full on support. While this skill is active, it will be reducing the elemental ailment threshold, basically making it easier for us to shock and electrocute the enemies. All right, reduced stun threshold is useful for our other skills, primarily high velocity rounds, because this does have a pretty high chance of building up stun. So that's it for the skills. Let's take a look at the passive skills. So I am a Witch Hunter. You will benefit from Gemling, as far as I know, primarily from being able to double up on some of these support gems inside the skills. What I chose is on this right side, Zealous Inquisition. It gives us a chance to explode enemies when we kill them. I find that very useful for a little extra boost to DPS. Then I took this left side. So 70% chance total damage against enemies that are on low life. I believe that's 35% or lower. That's correct. You look at here at Pitiless Killer. Culling Strike, 5 through 30% enemies HP life or below. You have a chance to instant kill them. Now the chance of instant killing is based on the rarity of the enemy. The threshold starts off at 5% or lower HP with unique enemies. I believe it goes to 10% for rare, 20% for I don't know. All the way down to normal monsters once they get to 30% or lower. Decimating Strike, it's basically the same thing, just the opposite end. Whenever you hit a full life enemy, depending on the rarity, again, 5 to 30% of their life will be instantly deleted before the damage of the hit you made is even applied. Very good, very, very good skills. I find this amazing for any kind of generalized killing and farming. Moving down here, this is the passive tree that I use. I started off on the right side of this little section here, taking all the projectile damage. There's a little chance to chain. I worked my way down here. First of all, these crossbow reload speeds here, and working your way down this crossbow section, crossbow reload speed here. Those two combined give you a 100% boost to the crossbow reload speed, basically cutting everything in half. I find that extremely useful, invaluable. Highly recommend that being one of the first things you grab for any build, honestly. As long as you're using the crossbow, obviously. So right here, we got just basic damage. We got more damage here. We're grabbing this 25% increased chance to inflict ailments with the projectiles. Those ailments include shock and electrocution. We've got another electrocute buildup over here. This is very useful. This helps to guarantee we get this electrocution as fast as possible. So down here is projectile damage, more damage, a lot of lightning, elemental damage here. Elemental resistance penetration. Another 25% increased chance for both shock and electrocute buildup. I'm not too concerned about this flask effect. It's useful, but I mean, there's better that we could take. Working your way down here, more penetration, more lightning damage. Right here, lightning rod. I find this very useful because we are hitting everything with AoEs. We're throwing lots of shots out constantly between the passive, constantly proccing, AoEing, our own galvanic shards, AoEing. What this means is whenever you hit an enemy with a non-critical hit, then the damage is rolled twice. The amount of damage you deal is the higher of the two rolls. So you're gonna more often than not hit higher on average than you would without that. Working our way back up here, we have more lightning damage up here. This comes over to increase shock chance and electrocute buildup. Shocking hits also have 50% chance to shock enemies in the 1.5 meter radius. This works with that other gem, giving us a, I want to say 4 meter radius chance of shock, free shock right there. Working our way up, this is more projectile buildup, damage, a little bit of accuracy rating as a bonus. Coming around here, chance for ailments, increased damage with hits against enemies affected by ailments, and that of course includes electrocute and shock. See, all these multipliers are part of the reason why even with the low DPS number that you're seeing inside the skill list, you will be dealing a lot of damage to these enemies. Right here, more penetration. Pretty sure with this build, I've passed 100% lightning penetration once you take the debuffs into account. So it may actually be a little bit overkill, and we may have the ability to swap into projectile damage if you choose, or let's say evasion or some kind of defenses if you really choose to. Honestly, at this point of the game, until we get harder content, I don't really think that's going to be necessary. Last little spot over here, we've got more increased magnitude. That's basically the strength of the status effect. Down here, massive increases there. Shock duration, that's always nice. They don't really live long enough to really benefit from that too much. So my next priority right here, I'm filling up these jewels. I've currently got 5 jewels. I want to say 5, almost 6. These are some of the best stats you're going to benefit from. Increased attack speed, lightning damage, damage with crossbows, crossbow reload speed, increased chance to inflict ailments. These are all great options. I highly recommend trying to focus on these if possible. And more lightning resistance penetration up here. And that about covers it. I just want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build as much as I have. This was a lot of fun to play as I was leveling the end game, and I especially find it useful now trying to farm everything out with a 263% item drop rate rarity modifier. I'll see y'all in the next video. I do have more video ideas for builds coming along. I'll see you later. Peace.